That was a bit of a premature ejaculation.
Well, it's one way to say it.
It's okay. You guys okay out there?
Everybody doing all right?
Yes?
You guys are in for a treat.
Ooh, what a soft chair.
Cozy.
Thanks for having me.
I'm not Jared Leto, by the way. But this is. I'm Bob Safi. I'm the editor of Fast Company. And you are in for a treat because Jared has a tremendous appreciation and perspective about a whole range of things. You're grinning? You're enjoying this,
Just
right?
the way you threw that out there sounded suggestive.
Oh, I was talking about technology
yes,
and investing and things like that, the entertainment world. Is that all right?
Yes, that's
okay.
perfect.
All right. So, I want to start with something general, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. You are an Oscar winner. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I shouldn't step on the applause. You are a rock and roll star. Yes?
I've been a band, yes, guilty.
So far I'm doing okay. You're an award-winning filmmaker for Artifact, a documentary about the music industry, right? For many people, this would be a full plate, yes? You're here in San Jose, California. In a few days, you'll be in San Jose, Costa Rica, doing a show, right?
Yes.
You love the jet lag, you're telling me?
I was in New York last night, yeah.
You're also an investor.
Yep.
Spotify, Airbnb, Nest, we'll hopefully talk about some of those things. You're an entrepreneur, right?
Yep.
3 companies, the Hive, Ventures in Wonderland, and Vert, which I also hope we can talk about more.
Yes.
You put all this together, and I start to think like, why? Like, why do all of it?
It's a great question. I think you have to be compelled beyond a reasonable doubt. I think that you have to be so drawn to your work that it's no longer your work, it's your life. I mean, for me, I don't really question my motives. I really act upon them, I suppose.
So they call you
yeah.
in some ways?
Yeah, it's that simple.
Is there something that unifies this sort of constellation of things that you do?
I think there's that basic premise of creating something from nothing and sharing it with the world. I mean, that seems to be a very common thing, not specific to me. But I'm an artist. I make things, and I see a lot of art and technology. I see a lot of creativity and technology and the people in this world. And I think that there's a lot of common ground there. Whether writing a song, making a film, directing a documentary, working with Vert or Adventures in Wonderland, or investing or advising a company, my role pretty much stays the same. It's creative problem solving, looking for solutions, using the unique experience that I've had, standing on stages around the world, literally and figuratively, understanding audiences and artists probably better than most. And I take all of that and I'm able to apply it and give hopefully some kind of creative feedback or find solutions where others may not. Does that make any sense at all? Yeah? Okay. I'm just checking. You don't have to applause, but you get it. But I think it's that simple. I think that a lot of us, I think the other thing that's probably good to note is that I think I'm an indication of probably what a lot of people are doing around the world right now is many different things, right? I don't do just one thing, and I think most people out there, if you did a survey, do a lot of different things. I think you probably do a lot of different things, and even more now with technology, we're able to accomplish and do more things. So I think that I just happen to be doing some of those things in front of people.
But, I mean, you describe yourself as an artist, but you're also obviously a businessman. Do you have to be a businessman to be a successful artist today? Do those things have to go together?
I don't think so, but if you're not, you better find a great manager. Or
you really trust, right?
Yeah, that's even harder probably, but I think it helps. Like I said before, I think there's a lot of art and business, and there's a lot of business and art. I think that if you look at some of the leaders, you'll find tons of creativity, whether it's at Box or Stripe or Google. right? You'll see people painting with ones and zeros, and that's very clear to me. Maybe because I am an artist, but I do think it helps to be smart about your business. You certainly don't want to trade your publishing for a Cadillac. This is what the record business used to do with these guys that wrote, 100 blues songs back in the day. They'd pull up a shiny Cadillac or something and say, hey, how about, you sign this contract? So there's a lot of advantage being taken in the music business. Historically, there's been a lot of advantage taken. So I think it's good if you're educated, but it's not always a necessity. Some people are more focused on the creative and unable or uninterested to be focused on the business. For me, I don't know if it's because I sold drugs as a kid, but I do what I do, and I have an entrepreneurial spirit. Thank you very much. Anybody need a dye bag? I quit that days ago.
So when we were backstage, before you were, you're talking about Box and Dropbox and sort of these enterprise software applications with the kind of passion that one would not necessarily connect with an artist. I mean, you get excited about that level of technology. Why?
Because I believe that technology and some of these companies that are becoming a big part of our lives are doing a great service to the world. I think that they're getting rid of waste. I think that they are allowing us to spend more time on things that are important. I mean, who isn't thankful for Uber right now? You know what I mean? I mean, raise your hand if you're thankful for Uber right now. Yeah, it's like, I use something called Slack. Does anybody use Slack? Okay. If you don't use Slack, you should use Slack because you'll be very, very thankful for Slack. It's made my life better. That Slack has made my email list shrink about 70%. And I know that makes you happy. And so these things, that's part of the reason. The other thing is I love to work with people and companies and on ideas that are transformative, that are different, that are special. And who doesn't like that? I mean, that's the whole reason we're all here, is because we're dreamers, right? We think that if we work a little harder, or if we put our ideas into action, we can actually be part of something that's meaningful. And I think that the same thing that happens when I work with a company, there is an acute awareness of the possibilities of life, not the limitations, okay? And that's the key thing to state, an acute awareness of the possibilities of life, not the limitations. The music business, if you look at the graph, it goes that way, not just in terms of overall revenue, but also in terms of innovation, in terms of optimism.
As a business, not necessarily the music.
Not the music, not the creative parts. I mean, there's a lot to be excited about as far as the creative parts of music, but as an overall place to spend your time and energy, right? Being in the business of music can be very difficult. The same with films, I mean, basically when you watch a movie, you're seeing sound and image, you're watching either animated or people portray characters that tell you a story about a set of given circumstances, right? That really hasn't changed since the 20s, right? It's about an hour and a half to 2 hours, sometimes more if you're unlucky, depending on the film. But that really hasn't changed. So the innovation there is largely in how comfortable the seat is at the theater, or how much they can drive the ticket price up without making us say, fuck you. So different areas of innovation, and I think that's what I like about technology as well, is that the graph, the optimism graph, the innovation graph, and some of the other graphs are tilted the other way.
Now, when you and I first met, you spent a lot of time railing about the music industry being very difficult for artists. Has technology made that in the last few years easier? Is it easier to?
Well, I'll tell you what's easier. It's quicker and cheaper and easier than ever before to record music, to distribute that music, for that music to sound pretty decent. You know, when I started and I signed a record deal in 1998, it was very expensive to make the album that we wanted to make, which sounded great. It was pretty epic, took a lot of time and energy. So you had to go into a studio, you had to hire the right engineers and producers. The barrier to entry was really high. Now somebody can use Ableton, put out a track, record it in no time at all, put it up on SoundCloud or whatever your favorite platform is, and it can be heard by the world. But I think what's more difficult now, it's harder than ever, is finding an audience, connecting with that audience, creating some stickiness with that audience, having a relationship that's deep and meaningful with that audience, because we all have so much less time.
And I guess because music is so mobile for us, and we're listening to it in some ways all the time. We talked about this, that, you know, when we were younger, we would really spend time sort of focused listening to music, right? That was the thing to do. And now
it was your primary experience, and now it's a secondary at best.
Yeah, and so as an artist,
it's also always there. I mean, it's like, you ever have somebody that's like just always there? You know, I mean, you gotta keep it special sometimes, right?
No hard.
How can I miss you if you never go away? Is what Irving Azoff says, and I think it's hilarious. But the same with music, if it's always there, I know that I can listen to it later. It's free, basically. It's even more than free. It's just like they're throwing it at you. So I think that's dramatically changed our appreciation and our value for music, and that's gone forever. So you better find other ways to create something special. That may be having an incredible live experience. That may be having an incredible virtual experience or a digital experience with Vert.
Yeah. So explain what Vert is for.
Well, Vert is a startup that helps artists share their recorded and live content with the world in a really social way. So it's kind of like YouTube meets Kickstarter meets something in the live space. And it's incredibly exciting because for me as an artist traveling the world, I make and create experiences most nights of my life. But when it comes time to share those experiences online, on mobile, there's really no opportunity for me to do that. And usually the model is this. A band, if I wanted to play a show here now and broadcast it to the world and get these cameras and these screens and everything and pay for it all, I'd have to go to the record label. They'd have to say, okay, we'll pay for it, and then they'll charge you an 80% markup, and you'll never see anything that comes from it. Or you find an advertiser that's going to pay for it, and then you do it for free for promotion. Which is kind of crazy if you think about it. It's kind of like if baseball and football were never on television. There's all these people around the world creating experiences, lectures, comedians, music, but it kind of dies. So we're trying to create a pathway for this, a place that people can access quality experiences in a really social and fun way, and artists can share those experiences with the world and then make some revenue doing it so they have a sustainable marketplace. So we're really trying to create this marketplace of live commerce.
And the appeal is that you're seeing it live the same way you would see a sports event live while it's going on?
Yeah, and even more. I think it dives deeper. It's in a really social way. So you don't just have to watch it alone, which is a pretty masturbatory experience, but you can watch it with your friends. You like that word, don't you? It's a technical word, too. But, you know, we can watch it together. Some things are great to do alone, and some things are great to do with your friends. And that's
with as many people as possible.
You know what? Yeah, that can be interesting. We've done it before.
So you referenced the
it's all downhill after this, after bombing, I gotta tell you.
I'm not sure where we're going to end up here, but so you mentioned the movie business. Now there have been.
But Vert is not just for live either. I should correct that because we do focus on live a lot. But recently we did The Shining. And The Shining was a great film to put on Vert. It was the second film. We put Artifact on there. And then we learned, wow, this is really special to be able to share a piece of content in a really social way. Just like watching this in a really social way would be fun. But we put The Shining up there. It was great for people to watch this classic film and everybody to kind of, someone to be in Iran and in Japan and South America and South Carolina, and to be, watching the film together and talking about this classic movie. So it's really taking live and recorded content and sharing it in a special and social way.
So does this, I'm trying to think, the movie business has a different set of disruptions hitting it than the music businesses have, right?
And that was only by default, because it was much harder and slower to download a movie file than it was a music file. You don't download a chapter from a movie, so it was cultural, it was technological. But now that's changed, of course. You can download a film pretty quickly, as some of you know.
And so much of the movie business is sort of dictated by these windows about when you can see the content, and you pay a certain price at the theater and then less on video on demand and all those things down the way through, and each way as an artist you get a different cut of something. It's very confusing.
Yeah, very, very confusing. I mean, the good thing about it is, as an actor, you actually get paid for your work. It's interesting, a makeup tutorial artist on YouTube will make more a successful one than a band will ever make month to month on YouTube. And that's because the labels take all the money and they don't share it with artists. And what they do is, they actually, a lot of people don't know this, is they take advances from some of these big companies, and they in the accounting practices, they will mark that as something other than something they have to pay out to artists. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on that's,
See, I hear this and I think, so like, why wouldn't you just do movies more and not do so much recording? Like, it sounds like it's harder to be a...
Well, I've never been one to change my appetite based on someone else's horrible business model. You know what I mean?
You like to do it. It's what drives you,
it's
right?
just like, if a mountain's difficult to climb, you don't not climb it. I like, it's not even like, but I'm compelled to make music and to share music with people. And oh, hey guys, sorry. I went back to you. I forgot you were over there. But I like to share music with the world and make things. So I'm not going to stop doing that just because there's some corruption out there. I made a film about it called Artifact, when that dealt with our $30 million, the $30 million lawsuit that EMI, Capital, Virgin threw at us when we disputed our contract. After selling millions of albums, we were millions of dollars in debt, and we started to look into it. And all hell broke loose, and they sued us, and we filmed it for 2 years. And it was a pretty interesting time.
Do you want to take some questions from these folks?
Yeah, why not?
Okay,
no questions. Great. It's been good seeing you guys.
Because I have other questions, but
See you next. No, we got one over here. Burning Desire. Yes. Someone bringing a microphone, or you shouting it out? Yeah, I'll repeat the question. Shout it.
He's asking about Spotify.
Yeah, what about Spotify?
Well, it just seems that they're perpetuating this model of exploiting the artists, so I'm kind of curious how you feel about that.
Do you think Spotify's
I would never phrase Spotify, I would never categorize Spotify as a company that's perpetuating a fraud on artists. I think that's the wrong way to look at that company, personally. I'd love to hear your experiences, if you've had that experience. Certainly the monies that are diverted to artists from streaming are pretty embarrassing, and that needs to be corrected. But like I said before, there are certainly a lot of problems. There's a great deal of corruption in our country. I'm not about to move somewhere else and give up my citizenship. And we all have ownership in this country as citizens. So I think it's kind of a similar way. It's a great company to be a part of, to listen, to learn, and to contribute. And I do believe that artists have a seat at the table, should have a seat at the table where the future of this digital architecture that's being drafted up is taking place. And I think it's better to have a position at that table than not. The problem, it doesn't lie necessarily with Spotify, it lies with the labels that are refusing to make clear and transparent deals with artists. Could you imagine if they went to Mark Zuckerberg, or if they went to Sergey, if they went to all these other brilliant people and said, yeah, hey, we're going to give you some seed money, but we're going to take 80% of your company, and with the 25% of the profits, you have to pay back all the debt first, then we'll pay you your 25%. That's what the deal is, roughly. That would be nuts. So you know what you wouldn't have? You wouldn't have Twitter, Spotify, you wouldn't have Apple. You wouldn't have any of these companies because those people are too smart. They would have told the record industry to go fuck themselves.
Jared doesn't feel strongly about this in any way. You can tell he's very...
I hope that answered your question. Yeah, some bit. I mean, it's a great question, and it's something that should be talked about more. I mean, it's such a weird thing. Artists should get together and have a conversation about this because it is important. And I think a lot of audiences don't know out there that, you know, you can listen to your favorite song 16 bazillion times on Spotify and other streaming platforms, and if it's a smaller band, they may see pennies for that, you know. Anyway, I appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So not too long ago, like Y Combinator put out like a request for startups. So what startups are looking for, and one of them was to reinvent Hollywood type deal. So to you, what do you think a startup that would really disrupt Hollywood? What would that look like?
Well, Hollywood is too general of a term. I think we have to divide it into at least to music and films. I mean, I think a lot's being done in both those areas. You know, people are using Kickstarter-like platforms for both music and films, and that's fantastic. And I know that there are some platforms out there that are devoted to artists. There's an interesting platform called Patreon that allows people to support up and coming and maybe emerging artists. But I think what I'd love to see is a group of really smart, creative people look at the model, see what's broken. I mean, it's basically you're looking at there are a lot of problems. So that's great because you can see what needs to be fixed. I think the first thing that probably needs to be fixed is the deal making. Because that's something you do all the time with artists. You have deals with your clients. Those would be your clients. So you want fair, reasonable, clear, transparent deals, just like that are made all of the time up here. And you want to apply that to the creative side of the business. But really, as far as music goes, the place that you need to win is there need to be more options for artists to get their music on the radio without relying on traditional record companies, because traditional record companies still do that the best. They have the most leverage, so that's the reason why they do it the best. And record companies can still be really great. Like, I'm actually not anti-record company, I'm anti-greed. Like, I would much rather have a record company than not, because I don't want to hire somebody in Germany and Mexico, somebody that can walk into Eins Live or XFM and say and play the new song and have the relationship with the person for 10 years so they have an understanding and a trust built. But you need that in every market and all over the world if you're a global band. So, you know, platform to distribute digital content, that's not such a necessity to me. I have the best platform in the world, the best company in the world, and they're figuring out ways that we can do that are wonderful, and that's called Apple and iTunes. And then you have Spotify, so you have YouTube. You can share your music in all kinds of places. It's really the other things that need to be tackled. It's how do you develop, grow an audience? How do you develop community? How do you get your music out to the world, and how do you deal with radio?
Can I ask you a quick film question, Jared?
Yeah.
You know, yesterday Weinstein Company announced one of their films was going to be released next summer. They're going to not release it in theaters, but it's going to be released on Netflix and these other. When you think of like Dallas Buyers Club, if it had been not released in theaters but released on a different kind of platform, do you think it would have been received differently?
Yes. I think still right now it would have been, but there's a reason for that. Dallas Buyers Club was a very small movie, very, very small movie in terms of budget, in terms of scale. So it needed the momentum and the support of the festivals and the critics. It needed that critical mass.
That gave it credibility.
I think it gave it attention. It gave it, that was the marketing for the film. and that's very rare to have that sort of thing. But I do think it's possible. There are also kinds of all sets of rules in place that you can't get nominated for Academy Award if your film gets shown first on television or somewhere else. Did you guys know this? Yeah, they have rules in place that may change in the future when TV becomes the desktop, becomes the mobile. It's all the same thing.
Thanks.
Hi, I'd like to speak about the humanity thing here because we were talking about tech, and thank you for the very interesting things. I'm discovering you, I would say. You've been to Kiev a week before I went there. I have family in Ukraine, and I was very surprised, but at the same time very happy to see that a public person like you was going at one of the worst moments during Maidan. So can you explain why you were there? Hong Kong is rising today, so it's like
Sure.
a big mess. So I want to hear, the people want to hear why you were there, what you think, your commitment.
Sure.
Please.
Well, I appreciate the question and thank you. It's quite a rare thing to be in a business that's directly impacted, creative business that's directly impacted by social unrest. And we've actually had that happen quite a few times. We've booked or been in conversations or canceled tours because of instability, because of protests, because of revolution. That's a pretty fascinating thing. And what that does is it educates you a little bit, it makes you aware of what's happening in the world. But we had a commitment to play in the Ukraine, and we saw band after band, everyone canceled their show pretty much. And we decided that after doing the research and talking to people that it was safe enough for our employees, our crews, we have about 40 to 50, 60 people depending on the tour, on the road. But we felt it was important to keep our commitment. I don't know if how many of you actually saw the Oscars, but I mentioned the Ukraine in my speech.
Sure.
That was an interesting thing to have a part of my life. I didn't understand, I don't think, some of the complications and some of the effect that would have. And it was interesting to learn about that. I was the Guardian ran a piece that as soon as I said that, the Oscars went off the air in Russia, the entire country, and in several other neighboring countries. So it's interesting to see the power of words. And my commitment was to play the show and to bring a moment of fun and distraction to a place that had been in the midst of such turmoil. But the great thing about being in a band and traveling the world is you learn so much. That's what keeps us going.
Do you feel like when you read about the world in the media compared to the world that you experience when you're on the ground, like are they constant, or is you're on the ground in places that most of us aren't?
I'll tell you something, and even take it a step further, is I've approached my booking agent, a guy named Mike Greek in London, who does all the ex-US stuff for us, and let him know about things that I saw on Twitter before I saw anything in the media, because our audience was communicating directly with us the moment it was happening on the street. There's the kid covered in blood, and this is happening, and this is real, and what are we going to do? Oh, no, it's not that big a deal, and he doesn't understand because the media is not reporting on it yet or correctly, but technology has certainly got us in touch quicker, and that's pretty mind-blowing.
Do you feel like the state of the media is worse than it's been?
No. I think media is in a really great and interesting place because it's transparent, and I think media has to work really hard because everyone is the media now.
Yeah.
The power has shifted. As a musician, I used to have to beg a magazine or beg a network or a media company for permission to tell my story. Now I don't give a shit.
Now I'm begging you so that I can get to all the people who pay attention to you.
I mean, I think it's more of a partnership, to be honest. But before, for an up and coming artist, you were dependent upon those things aligning, those impossible things. Are they going to pick? Is that magazine? Is that media company? Is that radio station all going to agree that I'm worthy enough to bring this to everyone else. And that's absurd, and that's a great thing that's changed. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for technology. We wouldn't have had this long career that we've had. Yeah. Thanks for the question.
The guy took the topic out of it, but I just wanted to employ you. I'm just a single guy. But
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Hi Jared, thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys being here. I have a question for you both.
This is a very curious audience, a lot of questions. Jeez Louise.
As an artist,
We're not going to get to all of them. Go ahead.
No worries.
I'll try to keep it short.
So as an artist and entrepreneur
Yes, thank
in
you.
space,
Yes.
everybody else go next. I was wanting to hear your thoughts on the introduction of tech into the music industry, and how do you see that beast kind of unraveling? Because as we saw with SoundCloud kind of recently gotten taken out for past damages, and other tech companies that are kind of coming into space, it's one of those areas that's very saturated and it's very tough to compete because you always have this archaic structure of labels.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can expect to create a platform based on, you know, the hard work and catalog of thousands of artists around the world. You know, that's kind of like a platform that was built for people to share pirated content all of a sudden, you know, claiming their mission is to support artists. I think that's a little bogus. So, you know, but there are certainly so many things that artists need help with, and building a wonderful platform that allows people to share their work or a piece of technology that helps that happen is great. Largely the issues in the music space are business model related. Do you know what I mean? I mean, music is commoditized so much. The stock of music, we're penny stocks right now, right? It's gotten so abysmal.
I feel like there's, in a lot of areas now, there is so much content being created because of all the technological tools that are available, which is great, but from a business point of view, it means you're competing in a tremendously crowded landscape, and it's hard to get value for what you're doing.
It is, and I think that the things that need to be addressed and changed are largely the business models. And you know, somebody can come up with a way that a company can be run, and music can be distributed, and artists can be managed, and art and music can be curated, and acts can be developed in a way that's really smart and lean and powerful and design-centric and friendly, and both to the customers. I mean, if I mention a record company or the label from a concert on stage, the audience literally boos. That's insane. Imagine if you had a company and when you mentioned it, customers booed. Wouldn't you do something about that? I mean, I would. And I find that very strange. And I got lots of friends at record companies. There are people out there that I think are brilliant at that work at record companies. Fewer and fewer. You know, they're losing a lot of people.
Jared, we're running out of time, and I'm sorry we're not going to be able to take any more of your questions.
Oh, let's do one more. The bearded man. What? Oh, a woman. Okay. She pulled that card. I don't know if you will pull that card. I don't know. I mean, hold on. Let's do a test. If it depends who makes more noise in the audience, the guys or the girls. Okay, all the guys make some noise. Okay, all the girls make some noise. I think the chicks won. For sure. He for she, baby. He for she.
Part of that, maybe. Yeah, I'm just really excited to see you. Thank you for being here.
Hey, my pleasure. This better be a good question because you cut me off.
I hope it will be.
But I appreciate your balls.
So nowadays we see a lot of collaborative efforts like Kickstarters. So as from a point of view of a musician, so we see a lot of platform of collaborative effort in sharing music. So we can hear a lot of amazing music from unknown people. But do you see this collaborative effort extended to co-producing music in the future? And what do you think about that?
You mean with me and another artist?
Yeah, like say you just produce the same piece of music with someone who like lives so far away from you. Do you see the technology go there? Or?
Yeah, there's a company called Gobbler that allows artists to share music as they're creating it. You know, it's a really They use the cloud in a really great way where you can seamlessly work on and collaborate on songs at the same time. And I think that's interesting. I think the thing about the future of technology with music is, at the end of the day, you have to sit and create something from nothing.
So my question, and like follow up, would it be really weird as a musician for you to not really sit with someone and feel music together, instead of like you don't really know who he is and you're co-producing such a personal thing together with?
No, I don't think that would be weird. I mean, that happens all the time. If you use a sample, it's a piece of a music that was created by someone else in another time. I use fake strings all the time, and a lot of times when I'm writing, I'll use cellos and tubas and French horns and arpeggiated.
You're not actually playing those in the room.
Pizzicato. Yeah. I'll use the computer because I'll hear a melody in my head, and of course I don't play a violin, but now I have permission to because of technology. But literally, those samples are recorded by a guy in Prague or someone in London, and they have different banks that you can buy. So in a way, you're collaborating already and using the good work and the expertise of artists around the world to make something. Let's go to Mr. Beardman real quick. We can do it. Thanks for the question. About the power play.
Thanks for that one. All right. So, just to boil it down,
Yeah.
humanity is fucked up right now.
Yeah.
The world's in shambles.
I have a feeling it's always been that way, but yes, go ahead.
True. But we're out here really seeing how we sell more, how we get more artists there, how we build more platforms. But really, music is a gift, it's a weapon, and we made it into a cheap business. How do we use music to bring unity and peace more than sell shit?
It's a great question, and I applaud that. I think it's wonderful. As you're saying that, I was just thinking of John Lennon's Imagine, and somebody asked me the other day, he could have written that song as a 20-minute art rock song, right? But really, at the core, it's a pop song. It's a folk pop song. It's something that what I mean by pop song is it struck a chord with the pop zeitgeist. It struck a chord to the people of the time, and it made us think and pay attention as well.
Are we afraid to be killed to do the type of experience, to share that type of experience?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's getting a little heavy maybe for this conversation, but I will say this. I mean, music has the power to change all of us. It's an important fabric of our life. This conversation's been kind of connected to technology, creativity, and entrepreneurial things, as well as humanity. And I think at the end of the day, whether it was people sitting around a fire chanting, whether it's people trying to get to know who they really are, who the world is, who the universe is, through song and through mantra, right? Whether it's people showing up at a giant concert hall and seeing Bono and the band sing In the Name of Love. There's something about music that's ubiquitous, that touches every culture in the world, and that's here to stay. It's I believe, the blood of humanity, and it's important to keep us all alive. So thanks for the question. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Robert. I love you.